All right, we're going to do one more booster box opening for Ravnica Allegiance for YouTube. This time we're going to do a kind of a rapid fire opening. We're just going to hit the rares. We went over most of the uncommons in the first opening video, so let's get started. All these cards will be on sale tomorrow, the 25th, at Hard Knocks Games. Our first rare is Ravnica Reveler. As I mentioned in the first opening, very solid card. Good on its own as a 2/2 looter for 2. Great if you can cast it for Spectacle and just draw 3 cards. Rare number 2 is Hallowed Fountain. Shockland, just what you want. It's like pulling $10 bills out of the pack, basically. Our third rare, Gruul Spellbreaker. I don't think we opened that one in the other video that we did, so we'll take a quick second to talk about that one. One and a red and a green for a 3/3 with Riot and Trample. As long as it's your turn, you and Gruul Spellbreaker have hexproof. Very, very good card. One of the more hyped up cards coming into the set. Really does a lot to kind of counter control, like Settle the Wreckage. Very solid rare, very good rare. Rare number 4 is Theater of Horrors. Really good card that we talked about in the first box. We have 2 rares in this pack. We have a Blood Crypt, another Shockland, and then we have our foil rare for the box. Each box usually has about 1 foil rare, and in this case it is Bedazzle, which is a split card. For 2 hybrid red mana, target creature gets +3/-3 until the end of the turn. Or for 4 and a black and red mana, destroy target non-basic land. Bedazzle deals 2 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. Okay card. Probably not the foil rare that you want from your box, but that's okay. We get it so you don't have to. Next up, we've got Benthic Biomancer. 1 mana Merfolk with Adapt. Solid card, not too much to say about it. Merfolk is an archetype that got some new cards in the set. Looks fairly strong. Let's see. Here's one we didn't get in our other box opening. Deputy of Detention. 1, a blue and a white for a 1/3 creature. When Deputy of Detention enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls, and all other non-land permanents that player controls with the same name as that permanent until Deputy of Detention leaves the battlefield. So it's a functional Detention Sphere reprint. Super good, solid. Electro Dominance, another very good card hovering around the $10 mark that people think will possibly make waves in modern format. 2 red X for an instant. Electro Dominance deals X damage to any target. You may cast a card with converted mana cost X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So obviously you can do some busted things with that in modern. You can cast Ancestral Vision, Restore Balance, Living End, all those cards basically for 2 mana. Real powerful. We're just waiting for someone to kind of break that open. Sphinx of Foresight is our next rare. Solid, nothing too special. Don't think it's going to see much play in Standard. Great and limited, that's about it. We have a Mythic, nope, not that one, this one. We have Prime Speaker Vannifar. 2 green-blue for a 2/4 legendary creature, Elf Ooze Wizard. With tap, sacrifice another creature, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature cost converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. You can only activate it as a sorcery. So this is one of the more pricey cards in the set right now. A lot of speculation on this card going in because it is effectively Birthing Pod on a creature. Birthing Pod is a card that saw a lot of play in Modern, enough that it got banned. Works well in a lot of combo decks, Kiki Jiki, that kind of combo deck. It's worth noting that it is a tap ability on Vanifer, so you cannot do the ability the turn that she comes out, which is the downside of the card. So this should be an interesting card. There'll probably be some cool decks made out of it. Where it goes price-wise, play-wise, to be determined, but very solid mythic anyways. Next up we have Bedevil. Another great hit. Reprint, not reprint, but similar to Hero's Downfall from Theros Block. Yeah, Theros Block. So it's black, black, red for an instant and destroy target artifact, creature, or planeswalker. Great removal. Nothing else to say about it. Just very, very good card. Let's see, we have Glass of the Guild Pact. 2 mana for an artifact, multicolored creatures you control get +1/+1, whatever. We also have another foil rare for our box, Font of Agonies. 1 black mana for an enchantment. Whenever you pay life, put that many blood counters on Font of Agonies, and 1 and a black, you can remove 4 blood counters to destroy a target creature. Onward to the second set of 12 packs. We'll start with Rampage of the Clans. 3 and a green instant, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. For each permanent destroyed this way, its controller creates a 3/3 green centaur creature token. Verity Circle is our next rare. 2 and a blue for an enchantment. Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't being declared as an attacker, you may draw a card. Weird little card. Not exactly sure what'll be done with that card, if anything. We'll probably see some play in Commander, because Commander. And we have another blue rare. Precognitive Perception. 3 blue for an instant, draw 3 cards. And then it has Addendum, which is the Azorius mechanic for the set. If you cast a spell during your main phase, instead scry 3, draw 3. So the Addendum mechanic is interesting because usually with your blue-white control decks, you want to basically play your land, pass the turn to your opponent, and then you want to cast your spells on their turn. This is basically Wizard's way of trying to encourage people to not play that route, which is interesting. We'll see how that works. Either way, 5 mana, draw 3 cards, instant speed, solid. All right, we've got our first Planeswalker of the box. We've got Domri, Chaos Bringer. We didn't see this one in the other box, so we'll kind of go over it a bit more. It's a 4 mana Planeswalker that comes in with 5 loyalty, which is pretty high, 2 generic mana, and then red-green. Its +1 is add red or green to your mana pool. If that mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains Riot. Very solid ability, and it's worth noting that Riot does stack. So if you have, for example, Gruul Spellbreaker, the card we opened earlier that has Riot on it, and you play it off of this +1 ability, it has 2 instances of Riot, so you can give it haste and a +1/+1 counter. Its -3 ability is look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 creature cards from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Just solid search to kind of have creatures to follow up with. And then his -8 is you get an emblem with, at the beginning of each end step, create a 4/4 red and green beast creature token with trample. So obviously if you've built up enough to get the emblem, you're probably in a position where you're already winning the game. That's kind of my thoughts on this Planeswalker as a whole. If you play it and you're already ahead on board and you already have creatures, you're winning the game more. If you're down on the board, say you've just gotten board wiped, he's not quite as good. So we will see where he goes in Standard, especially when you're competing with Vivian Reed in the green Planeswalker spot. Solid card, though. Next rare is a split card. So Warrant and Warden. The Warrant side is 2 blue-white hybrid mana for an instant. Put target attacking or blocking creature on top of its owner's library. And the Warden side is 3 and blue and white for a sorcery. Create a 4/4 white and blue Sphinx creature token with flying and vigilance. This card's pretty good. I think Warrant is the side that I'll see more often than not play. Just 2 mana to put a attacking or blocking creature on top of its owner's library is solid. Solid instant speed. So, good card in blue-white control. Or like a tempo deck. Our next rare is Gutter Bones. Talked about this one in the last box. 1 mana for 2/1. That has the recursive ability to come back to your hand if he dies. Just a solid card for aggro decks. We have another Mythic, a really good one at that, Skargan Hellkite. Dragons are almost always good. So we have 5 mana, 3 and then red for a 4/4 dragon with Riot, flying, and then it has the ability 3 and a red, Skargan Hellkite deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 targets. Activate this ability only if Skargan Hellkite has a +1/+1 counter on it, so say you put your counter on it with Riot. Card's great, very good. Glorybringer was good, Stormbreath Dragon was good, Thundermaw Hellkite was good. This one will be good. Very, very good Mythic. So we'll see lots of standard play. Next up, we've got another split card, Revival Revenge. So the Revival half is 2 black-white hybrid mana for a sorcery. Return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then the Revenge half is 4 black and a white for a sorcery. Double your life total. Target opponent loses half their life, rounded up. Interesting card. Haven't seen too many builds with it yet. I saw it do some good work in pre-release. We'll see how this card goes. Not too much to say on it at the moment. And we have another Planeswalker. And this one is not good. So we have Kaya Orzhov Usurper, 1 black and a white for a Kaya Planeswalker, comes in with 3 loyalty. Her +1, exile up to 2 target cards from a single graveyard. You gain 2 life if at least 1 creature card was exiled this way. Her -1 is exile target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 1 or less. And then her -5 is Kaya Orzhov Usurper deals damage to target player equal to the number of cards that player owns in exile, and you gain that much life. So, 3 mana Planeswalkers are usually very powerful just for the fact that you can play them early and they affect the board immediately. Kaya doesn't do that. She comes down and then just doesn't do much. This card's just, it's not good. This is a bad card. We're going to go on to the next pack and just kind of move on from there.
So bad you didn't get through.
Next up, we have Plaza of Harmony. When Plaza of Harmony enters the battlefield, if you control 2 or more gates, you gain 3 life. You can tap it to add generic mana, or you can tap it to add 1 mana of any type that a gate you control could produce. There's some gate decks out there in Standard that play this card. Interesting. The life gain is not irrelevant. There's lots of red decks, lots of red-black burn decks in the format right now. Interesting card. Most of the time in the gate decks, as mentioned, it'll basically produce almost any color. So we have another split card in Thrash Threat. Thrash is 2 hybrid green-red mana for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. So basically a fight card, almost. Not bad. Threat is 2 in green and a red for a sorcery. Create a 4/4 red and green beast creature token with trample. Not a flashy card, just kind of, that's what Gruul does, it's what red-green does. Nothing too special. Probably won't see too much play since there's just better removal in the format. We have Biomancer's Familiars. This is a card that we haven't seen yet. Blue-green for a 2/2. Activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the amount of mana an ability costs to activate less than 1 mana. And then it has the tap ability. The next time target creature adapts this turn, which is the Simic mechanic in the set, it adapts as though it had no +1/+1 counters on it. So the general adapt abilities you can only activate if the creature doesn't have any +1/+1 counters on it, so you can only do it once. This card lets you get around that and lets you adapt a creature multiple times, basically. Interesting card. I don't know if it'll see any play in Standard, but it's interesting. Could be kind of a fun build-around card. Down to the last 12 packs in this box.
We had seen any shocklands yet?
Yeah, we've gotten a couple of shocklands. This card is a bomb and limited. Really, really good. Ethereal Absolution. 4 mana and then a black and white mana for an enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. And then it has the ability 2 black and a white. Exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. If it was a creature card, you create a 1/1 black and white spirit creature token with flying. So basically, it's like mini Elish Norn on an enchantment, kind of. When in a format with a lot of X1 creatures and spirit tokens and whatnot, this just destroys them. We'll probably see some play. I've seen it built around in a couple control decks, but the real good format that this is in limited. When I saw this card played at pre-release, the person that played it just didn't lose the game. So, strong card, very strong card. Next up we have another Mythic, Mesmerizing Benthid. 3 blue for a 4/5 octopus. When Mesmerizing Benthid enters the battlefield, create 2 0/2 blue illusion creature tokens with whenever this creature blocks a creature, that creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step, and it has hexproof as long as you control an illusion. Interesting card. I like the design of the card because it's kind of a build-around card. We'll see where it goes. I haven't seen too many decks that have been playing it so far, but the format's still early on, so plenty of room to change. And anything with hexproof is always strong. So. Stomping Ground. Another Shockland. Again, Shocklands are great. You want them? There we go. Meanwhile, we don't want this. Awaken the Erstwhiles are next rare. 3 in black for a sorcery. Each player discards all cards in their hand and creates that many 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Nope. Let's try and cleanse the palette a little bit. We have a split card, Repudiate, Replicate. So for 2 blue-green hybrid mana for an instant, counter target activated or triggered ability, so it's Stifle basically. And then Replicate is 1 green and a blue for a sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. Pretty cool little card. Lots of tricky things that you can do with it. Stifle's always fun. Your opponent just doesn't see it coming usually. So, solid card. We did not see this card in our first box, so we've got Incubation Druid, which is 1 and a green for a 0/2, and it has the tap ability, add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. If Incubation Druid has a +1/+1 counter on it, add 3 mana of that type instead. So basically it becomes just an absurd mana dork. And it has Adapt 3, which is the Simic mechanic, so for 3 green, you can put 3 +1/+1 counters on it, making it a 3/5 that taps to produce 3 mana of any type that you could produce. Really, really strong card. This is going to see a lot of play in Standard. Very good. Speaking of very good cards, here's another one. We have Judith, the Scourge Diva. This card is seeing a ton of early play in red-black decks, in Mardu decks, which is red-black-white. It's great in aggressive decks. It's great in like the aristocrat-style sacrifice decks. So Judith is a 1 black-red for a 2/2 legendary creature. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Judith the Scourge Diva deals 1 damage to any target. So if you have a deck that makes lots of tokens, it just pumps all your tokens real quick. And then if you have afterlife creatures that die to produce tokens, those creatures themselves are going to get in for some damage with her second ability. Very strong card, going to see tons of Standard play. Will be a staple pretty much the whole time it's in Standard. We have another Gruul Spellbreaker, another really good pickup. I think this is the second one we've got in this box. We already covered it earlier. Very solid card, great in the red-green aggressive to mid-range decks. Just kind of shuts down control players that are trying to play their spells on your turn against your cards. Solid card. Down to the last 4 packs, and this one had a Font of Agonies. We had a foil of this one earlier, I believe, and we talked about it. 1 black mana for an enchantment. Whenever you pay life, put that many blood counters on Font of Agonies. 1 and a black, remove 4 blood counters from Font of Agonies, destroy target creature. Interesting kind of build-around card in potentially a control deck. Could be fun to like pair it up with Argos Bloodfast from Ixalan. We'll see where it goes. Anything that lets you just destroy creatures is solid. So some interesting decks could be built out of that card. Simic Ascendancy is our next card. Blue-green for an enchantment. I don't think we saw this one earlier. 1 blue-green, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. And then whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature, put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendancy has 20 or more growth counters on it, you win the game. So the win the game aspect of the card is probably less relevant than just being able to put counters on your creatures, especially in like Simic. So we had a few technical difficulties. We had to switch recording devices. So picking up where we left off, we were talking about Simic Ascendancy. So for a green and a blue for an enchantment, 1 green-blue, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on a creature you control, put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendancy has 20 or more growth counters on it, you win the game. This is a fun kind of build-around card that probably won't see that much play because there's just the card Hadana's Climb from Ixalan, Rivals of Ixalan is just better than this card. But some people might build some jank decks around the ability to win the game with the 20 growth counters. Seems like something that some people would try and do. Nothing too great though. Down to the last 2 packs. Our next rare is Kaya's Wrath, which is the 4 mana board wipe, black, white, white. For a sorcery, destroy all creatures. You gain life equal to the number of creatures you controlled that were destroyed this way. Very solid card. Most of the board wipes that we've seen in recent sets have been 5 mana, so the return to 4 mana is pretty big deal. It does have some pretty intensive mana cost though, so it's kind of limited to the decks that can play in it. Very strong card though. And we have our last pack. Which has the card Guardian Project in it, which is 3 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature you control or a creature card in your graveyard, draw a card. This card is not good. Could see some play in like Commander or something, but I don't see a place for this in Standard at all. It's probably decent in Limited where you're not having like 4 of cards. Solid play in Limited, but that's about it. So that is all of the rares from the second box of Ravnica Allegiance that we opened. All of these cards will be on sale at Hard Knocks Games tomorrow, which is Friday the 25th of January, and we will be drafting the set for release. So we hope to see you all out here, and we'll see you on our next YouTube video.